A CPU socket, also known as a processor socket or a CPU slot, is a mechanical component on a computer motherboard that's designed to hold a central processing unit. The CPU is the brain of the computer, responsible for executing instructions and performing calculations. The CPU socket serves several important functions. 1. Physical connection between the processor and the motherboard. 2. Power delivery for the processor. 3. Data transfer. The socket facilitates data transfer between the CPU and the other motherboard components. CPU sockets come in various shapes and sizes. Each CPU manufacturer typically has its own set of socket designs to accommodate the various CPUs it produces. Computer processor sockets and slots have evolved over the years to accommodate different CPU architectures and technologies. Here are some of the most notable types of processor sockets and slots. LGA – Land Grid Array. LGA stands for Land Grid Array. It's a type of computer socket used in modern computer motherboards to hold and connect the central processing unit. The term land grid array refers to the arrangement of the electrical contacts such as pins or pads on the CPU and the corresponding socket. In a LGA socket, the CPU itself has an array of small pads on its underside, which are used to make the electrical contact with a matching set of contacts in the sockets on the motherboard. Examples: LGA 1151, used for Intel processors; LGA 1200, which is used for Intel 10th and 11th generation processors; and LGA 1700, which is introduced for Intel's 12th generation processors. PGA – Pin Grid Array. PGA stands for Pin Grid Array and is a type of CPU socket used in older and some specialized computer motherboards to hold and connect the central processing unit. The term pin grid array refers to an arrangement of pins on the CPU and the corresponding holes or the receptacles in the socket. In a PGA socket, the CPU has an array of pins on its underside. These pins insert into matching holes in the socket on a motherboard. LGA and PGA uses a socket named ZIF, Zero Insertion Force Socket. The key feature of a ZIF socket is that it allows you to insert or remove a component, such as an integrated circuit or a microprocessor, without applying any force. Slot 1. Used for early Intel Pentium 2 and Pentium 3 processors. CPUs were installed into a slot, similar to adding expansion cards. Unlike modern CPUs that use sockets with pins or contacts, these processors were installed in a slot on the motherboard. Attempting to install a CPU in an incompatible socket can result in damage and is not recommended. It is essential to ensure compatibility between the CPU and the motherboard when building or upgrading a computer.